topic is social stratification. Social stratification. The previous topic was social interaction. So now we are looking at social stratification. All right, social stratification. Stratification shouldn't be a new term. I'm sure you have heard about this previously. It's a term that you must have seen over and over. The term social is something that is everywhere in your course material, and you must have also seen that. So stratification, strata, you must have heard of strata, you must have heard of stratum, right? All of that. So before we proceed into this topic, as usual, again, it's expected of us to outline the learning outcomes, the intended learning outcomes. And so what are intended learning outcomes of this topic? It's actually a brief topic. And the first one is that you should be able to describe social stratification. Okay? By the end of this lesson, if you are a student taking this course, you should be able to describe social stratification. Then again, you should be able to explain the dimensions of social stratification. There are different dimensions of how are people stratified. Okay? Different dimensions of stratification. Then you should be able to analyze the basis of which people are stratified. On what basis are people stratified? Okay, so essentially those are the areas that we are going to be looking at in this lesson. Okay, so please pay attention as we look into the nitty-gritty of this lesson. So the first thing is the definition of social stratification. What is social stratification? Now, by way of simple definition, it is the unequal distribution. This is a key word. Unequal distribution. What are you distributing? Of attributes, qualities, or possessions. All right? Attributes, personal characteristics, qualities. Okay? Possessions. What do you have? How much money do you have? How much land do you have? Among members of a society that are usually regarded within that society as desirable and valuable, right? Those treasured things within the society, those things that the society actually gives so much value to, all right? Where importance is actually attached. And we are looking at personal attributes, personal qualities, or possessions. Okay, so by way of simple definition again, social stratification is the unequal distribution of attributes, qualities, or possessions among members of a society that are usually regarded within the society as desirable and valuable. So if you are having something that is not desirable or valuable, I'm sorry, you are not going to be stratified properly. Okay, in fact, you are going to be kept at the bottom of stratification. Now you have this image here. You can see right there. It is showing you some type of stratification. You have these people at the top. All right, first they are the highest. These ones below. These ones right at the bottom. All right, right at the bottom. So we have three sets of membership. If this is a typical example of a society, we have three classes, three sets of people in the society. There are those at the top, all right, probably those the wealthy ones, the ones in charge of right, those who control resources at the top, all right, those are the ones there. They are the ones at the highest, all right, of opportunities. Then you have the middle class. I'm sure you have heard about the middle class. The middle class. These are the ones that are in between. Okay, they have some wealth, they are seeing a little bit of poverty, they are seeing a little bit of wealth, they are just there and they are surviving. Then these at the bottom here, and of course colored in red, they are the ones that are actually feeling the heat, all right, of what is in the society. Those are the grassroots. These are the ones, and they are usually in the majority. They are usually in the majority. They occupy the majority space. While those at the top are usually in the minority. They are so few. But unfortunately, by way of natural social stratification, they are they are up there. Okay, they are up there, and they are so few. Why is that? Because you can't have too many persons at the top. Whenever there are too many, there is usually a lot of confusion going on here. It is difficult for them to come together. Before you know it, they start fighting themselves. All right, but the few here are the leaders. They are the ones that can always agree and take a decision, and of course they are always high up there, the middle class, right there. Okay, now you can find and place yourself. What is your level of stratification? If these are the three stages of stratification in Nigeria, you should be able to place yourself. Where do you belong? Okay, all right, so let's move on. I am sure that with that simple explanation you have been able to understand the concept of social stratification. By simple explanation, again, it depends on it entails your it entails that unequal distribution of attributes, okay, where there are different classes of people within a society. Okay, all right, so let's see before we move on to okay, let's take stratification dimensions. Let's look at the different dimensions in social stratification, or you call it stratification dimensions. What are the classes? Remember, in the previous image I just showed you, we have three sets of people in a particular society, and so these are the various dimensions. People can be stratified based on class. All right, class. What is class? This refers to the relative amount of money, wealth, and other economic goods that a person or social group possess. How much money do you have? How much wealth, all right, or economic goods do you have? I think this essentially has to do with material possession. Material possession. That's what gives you that class. All right, and so based on this image, you can actually attribute class to property. All right, in some literature you will see property is used instead of class, but they are all the same thing. So you can attribute class to property. How much property do you have? How much money do you have? If you are very rich, you are placed high up there. If you are very poor, you are placed at the bottom. If you possess, you are neither rich nor poor, you are in the middle class. Okay. Status. This refers to the relative degree of prestige. This is the word there, and you can see that same word right here. And privilege that a person or social group can successfully claim from other members of the society. For instance, a prince, by virtue of his status, all right, by virtue of his ascribed status. Remember, there are two types of status. I don't know if you have been taught about that. We have the ascribed status and we have the achieved status. The ascribed status is what you are by birth. For instance, if you are born into a royal family and you are a prince, that status of being a prince is ascribed. It is given to you by virtue of your lineage. You inherited it. All right, so people respect you for that. But achieved status is the status that you earn by virtue of your hard work, by virtue of your personal effort. What you actually are by virtue of your personal effort. All right. So now, and we said the status here, the stratification dimension by status refers to the relative degree of prestige and privilege that a person or social group can successfully claim from other members of the society. All right. So by status, we're talking about what you are, okay, by what you have been able to claim from other members of society. For instance, a prince, a princess, a king, all of that falls into this dimension of classification. Then power. We have talked about this before, and I'm sure you have not forgotten the meaning of power. Power refers to the ability of ensuring compliance among members of a group. Okay, first, prestige should go to this. All right, power remains power and goes to this. All right, in that image. So power, we said, is the ability to enforce compliance. Whether they like it or not, they have to do what you have told them to do. That is power. You are able to influence people to do what ordinarily they wouldn't have done. And so when you possess that characteristics, when you are powerful, Okay, you will be classified, you will be stratified based on the power that you possess. If you are powerless, you will be at the bottom. If you are powerful, you are at the top. If you are neither powerful nor powerless, you are at the middle class. All right, so before we move on to the next lesson, let's look into our class activity 1 for this topic. The class activity 1 is, what is social stratification? All right, it is quite predictable that you are going to ask that you are going to be expecting this question. What is social stratification? So you should be able to define that. List and explain the different dimensions of social stratification, right? So by the time you know all of these at the end of this lesson, by the time they become part and parcel of you, you should be able to explain them anywhere, not necessarily for examination's sake. Okay, so let's take the last aspect of this lesson, and so please, after this you will be given the opportunity. So let's look at basis on which people are stratified. The basis on which people are stratified. How are people stratified? We are drawing from what we have already explained, the dimension. All right, so the basis on which people are stratified: 1, power. I mentioned that. Political, military, economic power, whatever type of power, people are stratified on that basis. Income: how much do you have? Amount of money, type of land, type of and sources. All right, type and of sources and type of and sources of property. All right. Income: how much wealth do you have? Then authority. People are also classified or stratified on the basis of authority. Ethnic status, religion, and race, people are stratified on that. In some climes where there is racism, all right, where there's serious racism, people are stratified on the basis of their color. Some are white, some are black. Those who are white are up there, those who are black are down there. For the Christians, based on that stratification, you will see that the picture of Jesus is always white, while the picture of the devil is always black. And so the stratification there is that those who are blacks are usually attributed to the devil, and those who are white are those for Jesus Christ. The picture of Jesus can never be black. We have never seen that. All right, so that's some sort of stratification there. Then education. All right, education. People can also be stratified based on education. How much have you attained in terms of education? You go to some community, they tell you he is the only professor, and so he is given that respect because he's the only professor. In some villages, you are probably the only one that is studying the course of which you are studying. So on your level of education, it is also a basis of stratification. Ownership of property, we have talked about that already. All right, it's a basis of stratification. Occupational skill is a basis of stratification. So actually, individual characteristics, whatever you possess, your qualities, your charismatic qualities, can be basis of which you are being stratified. All right. Okay, finally, let's take the second class activity, and I'm sure you should be able to predict that because it is going to hinge on this topic alone, and that is what we have discussed. So class activity 2: critically analyze the basis on which people are stratified. You should be able to discuss this using the points that we have outlined. All right, you should be able to do this. So there are different bases, okay, of which people are stratified. All right, so we have now come to the end of this lesson. Very sincerely thank you for attending this class. Please, if your questions have not been answered, if you have further questions or contributions, feel free to send them across to me via my email or drop it in my message inbox. I will be very happy to respond to them. Thanks again, and enjoy the rest of your day.